Holy smokers, guys, do I have a crazy story for you today. I walked in to turn in my cable equipment, and I'm sitting there waiting for the customer service lady to do her thing, and I look down on her table there, and I'm not kidding you guys, I see her password underneath her computer, and I'm pretty sure that was the password to her computer, which is a really bad thing, and that really inspired me to make this video for today. Today I'm going to be talking about the best password practices that you can do in 2019. Obviously, this is not a good password practice, so I'll be talking about that situation further. I'm going to be talking about the things that you should be doing to manage your passwords, and I'm going to talk about the things that you shouldn't be doing to manage your passwords. This information will be beneficial to you because it will reduce your risk for your computer to get hacked into. It will reduce your risk for your personal accounts to get hacked into. And by reducing that risk, you'll save yourself from having personal information leaked out that you don't want out there. You'll save yourself from having your financial accounts possibly being drained or being used for things that you don't want them to be used for. And you'll save yourself from identity theft. Alright, so the number one thing, the thing that you shouldn't do is from that story that I just told you. Do not post your password on your desk. And this especially goes if you're doing customer service type stuff, or you're having people meet at your desk all the time. You don't want to have your password out in front of your desk to your computer, because those people can see it. If you happen to leave the office or whatnot, and those people are malicious, they could grab that information and they could possibly log into your computer and install a virus on there so that they can come in. A back door is what we security experts call it, and then they can access your computer while you're not there and do other bad things to your company or any of your accounts that you're signed into or anything that you're doing on those systems. So number one, do not leave your password on your desk like that lady. That's a terrible thing to do, and especially in those customer service like situations. The number two thing is, do not give out your password to anybody, and this includes your IT support people. In various organizations that I've worked in, I've seen where people will just hand their passwords to their IT people, including me. I've had it happen before, and I personally, as an IT person, don't want your password. And the reason why is because most people use the same password for every website. You hand me that password, and then all of a sudden I become liable if some of your other sites, if another site of yours gets compromised, and I knew that password that you used for that site, then I could be potentially liable, and you could come back to me and think that, oh, I gave my password to that IT guy, he got into my account. And I don't want that burden on me. And then the second thing is, it's just bad practice. It's a bad habit. You don't want to hand your passwords out to anybody. So if your IT person comes and requests to give your password to them, I would challenge them and say, hey, I don't want to give it out. Is there any other way we can do this? And if they say no, just keep trying to push back as hard as you can. If that's the only way, which it shouldn't be if they're a good IT department, then reset your password to something else and give that password to them. Because more than likely, you're probably using the same password on multiple websites, and you don't want them to have that password. Give them a password that you're not using on multiple websites. Once they're done with your account, change it to something else. So that brings me to my number 3 point. Don't use the same password for every website. In 2019, there's been so many data breaches that have been going on, and every time there's a data breach, that information gets put into a database, and people have databases of all the data breaches combined with all the usernames and passwords in there. And if you use the same password for every website, your password's going to be in that database and your username's going to be in that database, and then criminals can start trying to go and use your username and password from that one breach on other websites, and if you have the same username and password, boom, they're going to get into all those websites. So you don't want to do that. Which leads me to my number 4 point. Don't use passwords involved in a data breach. You can check on this information by going to haveibeenpwned.com/passwords. You can type your password in there and see if it's been involved in a data breach. And if it has been, don't use it. One thing to be careful with this, though, is you want to make sure that you're going to that direct link to do that. You don't want to go to any other website, because some people set up fake services like that where you can type in your password and then they'll go ahead and steal that password. Just go to that link, because I know it's legit and I used it before, and I follow the owner of the site, Troy Hunt. he's been involved in a lot of good things for password security. You can also use the password manager 1Password, and that will do that for you as well if you enter a password inside there. All right, so those are the 4 don'ts that I have for you. So now let's talk about some things that you should do. The number 1 thing that you should do in 2019 is to use a password manager. And the reason that you should be using a password manager is a situation like I talked about before. You're using the same most people are using the same password on every website that they go to, and you get in a data breach, and if you have the same password for every website, it only takes one website to get breached where attackers can go in a database, look up your password, and use that same password on other websites to get into all of your accounts. If you use a password manager, there's 2 benefits to that. 1, you can use a different password for every website, and 2, you can use different complex passwords for every website, which is key as well. Some password managers that I suggest are LastPass, KeePass, and 1Password. So I'll post the links down below. You guys can take a look at those. But yes, that is the most important thing that you should be doing in 2019 for password management. Number 2 is kind of related to number 1. Use a different password for every website. I don't need to say any more about that. Number 3, if you have to set a password yourself that you can't set through a password manager, like your work computer when you go to sign into it, make sure that you're using a strong password. At least use a 15-character password or longer. And the reason that you want to use a 15-character password or longer is anything shorter than that can be brute forced or it can be broken into rather easily in a very little amount of time. If you're going over 15 characters, it's going to take a lot longer to crack your password and get into your account. When you're setting these passwords too, you want to make sure that you're not using easy words and phrases and commonly known words, and then also make sure it's not in a breach. I highly suggest when you create a password that you create some type of password phrase and throw some numbers and some special characters in there, because by making a sentence, you're increasing the length, and then it's rather easy to be able to remember what your password is. All right, so you might think a password like this is a super good password because you're like, it's got a special character in there, an exclamation point. It's got uppercase, it's got lowercase, and it's got numbers.
Like, Levi, this has to be a killer password. It would be super hard for people to figure it out.
Well, the problem with this password is it's short. It's only 8 characters long. In 2019, with the graphics card processors and the CPU power, a password like this can be cracked super easily versus a password like this. When you look at this password, it's over 15 characters long. It would be super easy for you to remember, unlike this. And you know, it's a password sentence, so Levi exclamation mark likes to watch 20 games. It's super easy to remember, right? So set a password something like this, you know, make sure it's at least 15 characters. Try to get it over 20 if you can. The longer the better. So make sure to set difficult passwords and make sure to set long passwords. Point number 4 that I have to make, when you're using a password manager, make sure to use as long as a password as the site supports. Like I talked about before, the longer the password, the better, the less likely that it's going to be brute forced or revealed. So set as long of passwords as you can with password managers. What you should be doing, number 5, use multi-factor authentication on any site that supports it. If you're not sure what multi-factor authentication is, I'll put a card up here. I did a video on it so you can see what that is. Tip number 6, if you have to write passwords down and you're not comfortable using a password manager, you can use a password book, but make sure that if you're writing passwords down in a book, you have it stored in a secure location. Put it in a locked drawer in your desk and pull it out and use it, and then throw it back in the drawer and lock it. Don't have sticky notes on the table like that lady that I was talking to you about did. If that book happens to get stolen, you have all your passwords lost and people can get into your accounts that shouldn't be getting into your accounts, right? And then the number 7 thing that you can do is on websites that have account recovery questions, don't answer the questions directly. So if a question asks where your mom's hometown is, don't put where your mom's hometown is. Make up like a bunch of garbage and put it in there. And if you're using a password manager, you honestly could just generate a fake password to throw into there. Personally, I hate those recovery account questions because it makes it super easy for people to recover your account. based off of information that they found on social media or that they could search on the internet for you. So make it difficult for them so that they can't reset your password through the account recovery questions. So those are some of the tips that you should and shouldn't do. And hopefully you don't end up like that lady that could end up being in trouble someday from my story. Hope this information really helps you guys out. If you guys like this content, click the subscribe button, smash that like button, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day. Thank you for watching, guys, and have a great day.